without further ado, brothers and sisters, I want to introduce a person who is very dear to me and very dear to this local, and I want to thank her in advance for spending the time to come here and speak to us today. Sister Angela.
Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to be here at the beginning. It was my intention to be here at the beginning of the forum, even though I was told that I didn't have to come until 1 o'clock. But it seems like everybody in the East Bay was coming to San Francisco today, so I was in traffic for an hour and a half. It's really wonderful to be here. And it's true that I envied all of my comrades who were members of ILWU Local 10, you know, back in the 70s. And of course, the fact that Local 10 played such an important role in getting the entire union to support me when I was in jail during it was actually 1970 through 71 until 1972. And Clarence, thank you so much for the history lesson. You know, I was thinking, I'll let him take my time because I am learning so much. And also, the other day, two or 3 days ago, I was hanging out with Danny Glover, and we were both talking about how proud we were to be honorary members of ILWU Local 10. So I promised him I would tell him about the forum today because he also is a strong supporter of Palestine, a strong supporter of freedom and justice for Palestine. And actually, the struggle to free Palestine has been a theme of my life, of my political life, my personal life as well. I attended Brandeis University, which was founded in the same year as the State of Israel, and we heard that every single day. But I also had friends, Jewish friends, who were very concerned about what was happening in Palestine. And this was in, let's say, I went to college in 1961, 62. So I'll never forget, even though the official story was always about supporting the settler colonial project of the State of Israel, there were these subterranean conversations that happened at this Jewish university about the need to stand up for Palestine. And my roommate, my Jewish roommate, I'll never forget how much she talked about the fact that the removal of Palestinians from their land, the military assaults on them, that all of that was absolutely wrong. And at the same time, I learned how important it is to stand up against anti-Semitism. As a matter of fact, they're the same struggle. Growing up in Birmingham, Alabama, the first white people to offer solidarity to black people, this was in the most segregated city in the United States, Birmingham, Alabama, were Jewish people. And so we're often told that the situation is really complicated, as we heard, that to stand up for Palestinian justice is equivalent to anti-Semitism. As a matter of fact, I had someone tell me when I spoke a few months ago at the Oakland Symphony that what I had said about the ILWU Local 10 refusing to unload Israeli ships, that was anti-Semitism. So, yeah. And so these ideologies attempt to persuade us that certain things are in inevitable contradiction with each other, that one can't say free Palestine and also call for an end to anti-Semitism. And as has been pointed out already, the fact that progressive and radical Jewish organizations have been in the forefront of the struggle to end the war on Gaza, that is as it should be. That is the way it should be. Now, sometimes those of us who've been struggling for an end to racism, patriarchy, Zionism, and all of the other backward ideologies in the world, we feel somewhat overwhelmed and we imagine ourselves to be in the minority. Because, of course, our adversaries are the ones who have all of the power. They are in possession of the greatest apparatuses of repression. They have police forces. They have powerful militaries. As a matter of fact, the Israeli military is one of the strongest military organizations in the world. So much so that it has trained police departments throughout the world, including in the United States of America. You remember during the Ferguson struggles, we learned that the Ferguson Police Department had been trained by the IDF. That's right. So we often imagine ourselves to be in the minority. We fail to recognize that even though they may be in possession of powerful apparatuses of repression, their words and their actions have been formulated directly as a consequence of their attempting to respond to our organizing and the fact that there are ever larger numbers of people who are joining our struggles. As a matter of fact, if one looks at how difficult it used to be to persuade people to place the issue of justice for Palestine on regular social justice agendas. As a matter of fact, there were, all of the movements, movement against racism, there was the feminist movement, all of these social justice campaigns, and then there was Palestine over here. Palestine was not incorporated onto the agendas of these movements. And that has changed. That has changed. I can remember when I joined a delegation to Palestine in 2011, a delegation of women of color and indigenous scholar activists who were representing the National Women's Studies Organization. Well, not officially, but it was formed within the context of that organization. We made a commitment when we returned that we would struggle to guarantee the inclusion of Palestine on all social justice agendas. And so to to a certain extent, all of us have been somewhat successful in the sense that there are more people standing up, unafraid to stand with Palestine today than there were then. I mean, this is not the case everywhere. In Germany, for example. I mean, it's really bizarre, isn't it, that, that Germany is the place in the world where people cannot freely say free Palestine, and people lose their jobs. It's kind of, and that's happening in this country as well. So we shouldn't be entirely persuaded that we don't need to fight for the right to stand up for Palestine here in this country. But I do want to make the connection. Everybody has been talking about the fact that longshore workers are in a strategic position because you can refuse to unload ships. And that is how the whole anti-apartheid movement was jump-started in the Bay Area. I remember that. And also, I think that, sometimes we're not able to see the possible repercussions of the work that we do. But the fact that South Africa is representing Palestine at the International Court of Justice lets us know how important that struggle to end apartheid in South Africa was. It wasn't only about South Africa. It was about the possibilities of challenging apartheid states wherever they are, including in Israel. And I think that we talked about Biden. Oh my God. I mean, I'm happy that people in the State Department have protested, have refused to accept Biden's position that the U.S. supports Israel no matter what, no matter how clear the genocidal intentions and genocidal actions are to the world. I'm not looking forward to this next election. And I think we have to figure out what we're going to do. Well, yes, we do need a workers' party. We have needed an independent, working class-based political party for a very long time. As a matter of fact, as long as I have been voting. We've been talking about that. But I want to conclude. I've been speaking already 13 minutes, and that's too long. I want to conclude by talking about why it is that so many people have been turned away from the struggle to free Palestine. Why do they support Israel? And it has to do with history. I mean, it has to do with the fact that Israel represents itself as the guarantee of safety for Jewish people all over the world. And, I was thinking the other day, has Israel ever expressed solidarity with any other struggle? And what does it mean for a person, an individual, to say, I'm going to be free all alone? I want to be free, but I don't want anyone else to be free. Toni Morrison said, the very point of freedom is to free someone else, that you cannot be free alone. You know, this is why the slogan exists, an injury to one is an injury to all. And Israel represents itself as all alone, not in solidarity with anyone else. As a matter of fact, if you want to support Israel, you can only support Israel. And there's something really bizarre about that, isn't it? And, you know, which isn't to say that the question of providing a safe haven for people subjected to genocide wasn't real. It absolutely was. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the history, Palestinians welcome Jewish people from Europe who had been subject to the Holocaust with open arms. And now the assumption is that Palestinians are animals. Can you believe that representatives of the Israeli government and the army could openly and publicly characterize Palestinian people as, quote, human animals? That is something that should have caused people everywhere to stop and ask, you know, what is the Israeli government all about? And to assume that you can't support Jewish people and Palestinian people at the same time, that you must always see that as a contradiction, is a way of ruining people's minds. And I just want to tell you one story. When I was in Palestine in 2011, and we went to visit a Palestinian family who had been evicted from their home in Jerusalem, in East Jerusalem, in Sheikh Jarrah, in that neighborhood. And they had built this home, multiple stories. They were pushed out of it and forced to live in the back area of the home that they had built. When we were on our way to visit with them, we had to walk, of course, in the front yard of the house, and the Jewish settlers who had moved into this home had children. And the children looked at us and spat at us. And children don't do that. Children don't do that on their own. So it made us think deeply about the extent to which Israel relies on that kind of brainwashing in order to create their state. In any event, you know, if you take a long view of history, you know that they are on the wrong side of history, and that we are on the right side. And I remember meeting with a Palestinian man. Actually, it was a storekeeper whom I got into a conversation with, and he said, as